Welcome back to the Minish Cap playthrough. Now, in the first video, I kind of distorted what actually happened. So here's what happened. Zelda got turned to stone, and Link got knocked unconscious, and they brought him into the castle, and now everyone's having a meeting on what they need to do, how to find Vaddie, and how they're going to save Princess Zelda. So let's listen in. And so basically, the king is obviously really angry that Zelda has been turned to stone, and he has like a vendetta with Vaddie now, so he asks all of his guards to go look for him, and then he's going to ask you, the hero, to restore the broken Picori blade, because it is the only thing that can turn Zelda back to her original form. I don't know how they know this, but they know it, so it's your job to go repair the blade. Now you may be thinking, why not just have your grandfather restore the blade? Well, only the Picori can restore the blade because it is their famous blade, and not everybody can come in contact with the Picori. They will only show themselves to children, so since you are pretty much the only child in Hyrule that's capable of going out on an adventure, they ask you to do it in typical Legend of Zelda style, and that's how your adventure begins. Now, I really don't want to save Zelda. I would prefer if they just took, the stone statue of Zelda and kind of like tossed it off a cliff, or threw it in an ocean or a river, or, gave it to some artist so he could sculpt it, or, something like that. I don't really want to save Zelda after what she did to me in part number 1. I'm still holding a grudge over what she did. I mean, that shield is pretty useless, and I would have rather had the heart container, but I guess since the king asked me to do it, I'll go restore the Picori blade, and I'll save Zelda, even though I really don't want to. I'd rather just see her dead. But the game wants you to go save Zelda, so that's what we're gonna do. And you get the broken Picori blade, and that's a great weapon, isn't it? Well, not really. It's pretty useless. In fact, you can't even use it. Although if you could, it wouldn't be very effective, let's say. You'd just be going around with the handle and part of the blade, and you wouldn't be killing many things with it. You also get the sword that your grandfather made for the sword fighting tournament, and that's your beginning sword. I forgot what it's called, but it's just your typical starting sword. You won't have it for very long, because unlike most Legend of Zelda games, there are actually a ton of sword upgrades in this game. In fact, there's the first sword, then 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 4 upgrades, if I remember correctly. So 5 swords in total, which is way more than any other Legend of Zelda game. I think the second most is 3 in Ocarina, and I think there was 3 in Majora's Mask as well, I think. I don't know, don't quote me on that, but there's a lot of swords in this game, and it's really cool, and I love this game. And one interesting thing about the sword fighting in this game is that you can swing the sword as fast as you can press the button, which allows you to kill enemies and bosses really quickly. It's so awesome. There's no limit, so you can swing your sword as fast as you can press the button. It's super awesome. I can't think of any other game where you can do it this fast. It's so cool. So now we're off on our adventure. Your typical Legend of Zelda gameplay. You explore, you go in dungeons, you go to lakes, and maybe a forest and a mountain. Everything you might expect to see in a Zelda game is here, so yeah, if you've played one Zelda game before, you should be able to get into this game pretty quickly. It's pretty similar, and overall it's really fun, and I recommend you try to get a hold of this game because it's really fun. I love it. And look at that, a green rupee. Don't spend it all in one place. Okay, how do I spend 1 rupee in 2 places? Okay, game, are you trying to make a joke there? Because it's not funny. I hate green rupees. They should just they shouldn't even be in the game. Like, just get rid of them. They're like pennies in American currency, if you're from America. They're useless. I mean, no one likes the pennies. Like, get rid of them. So every time you get an item for the first time, it tells you what it is, even though if you've played any Legend of Zelda game before, you should know what they are. I mean, you find rupees, you find hearts, you find bombs, you find arrows later on in the game. And you also find something else in grasses new to this game, but we haven't made it there yet, so I'm not gonna spoil it. Even though it's not really a spoiler, I don't know what I'm saying. So now we're in the Minish Woods, and we're off to go find the Picori, because they can restore our blade. And now we're about to be introduced to the main gimmick in Minish Cap. But first, we have a little cutscene where it seems like this rag, or whatever it is getting destroyed by these Octoroks, which is embarrassing. I mean, they're Octoroks? What, did they die in one hit? I mean, how embarrassing. So you're supposed to turn back, but before you do that, grab that piece of heart. And it's very similar to other Legend of Zelda games. If you grab 4 heart pieces, you will get a new heart. So make sure you grab as many as you possibly can. And like other games, at the end of every dungeon, there is a full heart container. So yeah, you'll be getting quite a few hearts. And yeah. So now that we head back to this thing, whatever it is, it wants you to help. And you know what? I'm not really in a helping mood right now. I'm not! After what Zelda did to me, I don't really want to help people anymore. In fact, I really want to kill this thing. I really do. But I'll be generous today. I'll help it. Why do I have to help all these people? I just want to go restore the blade so I can save Zelda, so the king will give me like 6 million rupees or whatever. I don't know. And so this thing explains to you, or doesn't explain anything to you yet, but it has been cursed by Vaati, so it's going to help you, and it's going to become your partner in this quest. And I absolutely hate this thing. Many people say that Navi is the worst partner in Legend of Zelda. No, doesn't even compare to this thing. Navi was useful. I mean, Navi helped you with the targeting system and stuff like that. Ezlo here is useless. Doesn't help you at all. It's just a nuisance. So it just follows behind you, and look, it can't even keep up with you, and it's just gonna complain the whole time. I mean, what's up with this? It's just gonna complain and talk, and yeah, I don't care. See, look, it can't keep up with you. Okay, so since it can't keep up with my full speed, let's run as slow as we possibly can. All right, look at me go. Yay! This is as slow as I could possibly go, and you still can't keep up. So it just gets frustrated, and it decides to climb on top of you, and now you have a hat. Oh, so that's how he got his hat. Interesting, very interesting. But the thing is, Ezlo here is still gonna talk to you so often. I hate it. Every time you're forced to talk to it, and you have to scroll through all the text, and I just don't like Ezlo. I don't. I hate her. It. But we'll be hearing more from her later, and if you ever need her, just press select and she'll give you a hint. Let's see what happens if we press select right now. Well, geez, thanks for it. That's not even helpful. Well, thanks a lot. You're useless. Oh, your superior intuitive sense, you say? Okay. Yeah, you're not very smart at all. So now we're introduced to our main gimmick in Minish Cap. Throughout the world, there are these portals to the Minish world, or the Picori world. They're both the same thing. It's just different groups call them different things. So the Picori and the Minish, they're the same things. And they're really small, obviously, hence their name, Minish, or Picori, which I think Picori is... I'm gonna be wrong on this, but I think it's Italian for small? I don't want to say that's right, but I think that's what I've heard. So in another language, it means small or tiny or something like that. Or maybe it's Japanese. That would make more sense, but... I'm not quite sure. I'll look it up and post it right about now. But anyways, there's a bunch of portals in the world, and they will allow you to become really small. And when you're small, you can go in tiny little caves and stuff like that, and you can meet the Minish. So there's a whole new world when you're small, or it's not a whole new world, but it allows you to access areas you can't access when you're big. So, I like this gimmick. It's interesting. It adds a little bit to the game. Sometimes, things you're expected to find are kind of hidden, like... It's hard to explain. We'll be seeing some things later on, but sometimes it's a little unfair because, as you can see right here, you're really tiny and you can't really see everything, and sometimes the caves you have to enter are really small and they're hard to see. You gotta be paying attention when you play this game. If you're not, then you're gonna miss a few caves, which often have heart pieces or a lot of rupees or stuff like that. And just to let you know, this is a 100% playthrough. However, I don't show everything just because getting all the heart pieces is so tedious, and it would add an extra 10 parts onto this playthrough. And this playthrough is already long enough. It doesn't need to be longer. So I'm just going to show all the rewards you get for completing the side quests and stuff like that. You'll see. And also, since this playthrough is really long, and this really isn't about... or this channel isn't really about the playthroughs, it's more about the challenges and stuff like that. I'm gonna do half of this playthrough, then do another challenge, and then do the second half, just so it doesn't feel too long in between challenges. That's just what I'm gonna do. If you don't like it, well, too bad, it's my channel, I can do what I want. And I do have a few more questions. If you're new around here, I answer questions during my playthroughs about anything. If you want to ask me anything, send it in to me. I'll answer it in a future playthrough. I have a few questions. I'm going to answer them during later parts, during some of the dungeons maybe, or some of the times where I'm just walking around. But I'll get to them. And thank you for sending in your questions. It really makes these playthroughs more interesting for me and hopefully for you. So now we've arrived in the Minish Village. And this musical piece I also really like. I don't know, it's just, it has that Game Boy Advance feel that, I don't know, I just really like music on the Game Boy Advance. I don't know, I love what the system produced in terms of music, like with this game and especially the Mega Man Zero series and the Game Boy Advance. They made some good music. I mean, it's not as good as Super Nintendo, but hey, it's still great and I love it. So now that we're in the Minish Village, we need to go find the Minish Elder, because he's always the best person to talk to. But first, go over here and collect a piece of heart. Always nice. And now we have 2 pieces. And in this game, we actually get another heart container before we defeat the first boss in the game. Which is, that's pretty cool. I don't know if you could do that in any other Legend of Zelda game. Now you could head to the Elder, but you don't speak the same language as the Minish, you speak different languages, so you gotta head to this guy, who's apparently the only person in the village who knows how to speak, we'll call it English, and he'll tell you that you need to find some way to translate, and conveniently there's this item called the Jabbernut, and when you eat the Jabbernut, you suddenly learn how to speak Minish. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. I wish I could just eat a nut and magically learn another language. Gee, that would be great. I would love to learn Japanese. I would love to learn Japanese. I could play all kinds of games that don't come out in America. That would be great, but I just don't want to put the time and effort into learning Japanese. Anyways, just head to this barrel house down here, and it will be laying here. You have to solve that block puzzle. It looks really difficult. I'm sorry I didn't explain how to do it, but just watch the video over again and hopefully you'll be able to figure it out. I know it's kind of confusing, but just watch it a few times and you should understand how to do that incredibly difficult block puzzle. So now that we have the Jabbernut, we can go see the Minish Elder and see what he has to say about repairing our sword. And so basically, I'll sum it up right here. He tells you that, 1, he can't repair your sword because he's just not good at repairing things. And 2, you need the elements to repair your sword. Now there's 4 elements in the game. There is earth, fire, wind, and ice, or water. And you have to collect all 4 of them to enhance your sword and make it better, and that's where we get all the sword upgrades. It's really cool. And he also tells you that, or I think he tells you that you need to take the sword up to a guy named, oh, what's his name? Please say it right here. I don't know. But there's some guy in another area, he's also Minish, and he will be able to repair your sword. As long as you have an element and the broken Picori blade. And he'll mark it on your map. I don't think you can go there just yet. No, you can't go there yet. This game is structured really well. I mean, you can't go to other areas you're not supposed to go to. Some people may say that's bad game design, but I think it's good game design. It creates a linear, but not really linear path. I mean, you have a straight linear progression path, but you can always roam around and do other things. It's just you need to do certain things before unlocking other areas. I think it's perfect. I don't see a problem with it, but some people who are traditional Zelda fans, like fans of the first game, would rather have an overworld where you could just go to any dungeon whenever you want, but I prefer this style better. It's just, I don't know, I like it. So we will enter the first dungeon of the game in part number 3. I'll see you then.